welcome back to my channel. My name is Claire, and today I wanted to go over something that I think will be really fun and that I've thought about for a while. I wanted to just go over some various young adult fantasy covers and just basically talk about why I like or don't like them. I almost did fantasy as a whole and then realized that the young adult fantasy and the adult fantasy are appealing to different crowds. So I think I'll probably do a fantasy oriented video in the future. I love graphic design, and I think a book cover is the epitome of what graphic design and art is trying to do. But how much I like or especially dislike a book cover is not representative of how I feel about the book, as you will see. So if you end up liking this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up so I know to do more of them in the future, and let's get started. Since I already have this book out, because it is the one that I'm focusing on reading for this week, it is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. And I love this cover so much. So this cover, Spin the Dawn, and the Guinevere Deception all have this cool motif, even if like the actual illustrative style is different, but it's generally a woman, a young lady who we can all assume is the main character in the midst of some sort of action pose, and then there's some sort of element, usually wind, usually something windy, because like their fabric or their hair will be like blown out. In the cover or in the Guinevere Deception, there are leaves that are blown around her fabric, or Spin the Dawn, she is literally mid-spin. So there's a sense of like something is just happening. It's a sense of movement, which I really, really love. I also tend to be way more attracted to covers that have a person in them, which can be risky because that can go horribly wrong too, as we'll talk about later. But if the person that is being depicted is done really well, oh my gosh, I'm just so attracted to those sorts of covers. And what I really like about Sorcery of Thorns, which unfortunately is so shiny, it's kind of hard to see, but I actually love how high up her eyes are, where they're basically cut off right at the eyebrow. So her eyes are just at this top right corner where one would open the book. It's almost like a suggestion of like, open the book, see what's going on. I'm looking over there, that's where my attention is. I think with Spin the Dawn and the Guinevere Deception, the eyes are at the reader, which I also like too. It grabs our attention right away. When we see other eyes, we're just like immediately drawn to them, which I think is part of the reason why I like having people on the cover so much, or a person. What I don't like about it, and I've mentioned this specifically when talking about Sorcery of Thorns, but I have this complaint about a handful of covers, is their font usage. Oh my goodness, this one drives me nuts because the way they swirl the T makes it look like a P. And for a while, I genuinely thought I was trying to say Pahorns or Thorns. While I get why the font is so swirly, the Six of Crows books do that as well, where there's a lot of swirls at the tail of their letters. My eye can get stuck on that, and sometimes I can have trouble actually reading what the title is. While I get from ignoring even what it says, just on a visual level, it's very pretty to have all those curves and swirls and elongated tails. It can really make it difficult for me to discern what the book is actually trying to say. And maybe this is just particular to me too, because I do sometimes struggle with like words and letters getting mixed up or switched around, and so having all of these swirlies doesn't help. Since I already brought up Leo Bardugo's Six of Crows, let's talk about the Grisha trilogy and Six of Crows. So let's start with the Grisha trilogy, because I have owned both the original trilogy covers, and you can see it back there, whoop, in that little box that Elsa's in front of, the collector's edition. The original Grisha trilogy covers, while I appreciated the graphicness of them, and I liked the color selections. They were a lot more like cool toned grays and blacks with like a pop of red. I think that's a very sophisticated palette for a young adult trilogy. The font really got to me. I remember Storm and Siege. I had the worst time trying to make out what the heck the title was. I had to open up the book to be like, what is this book called? I think with the new collector's edition, the way the animals, these prominent beasts, how they're cut out, and those cool almost granite-like colors coming underneath, almost could get away with not thinking it was a young adult book just because it's so sophisticated, for lack of a better word. I already mentioned my issues with the font for the Six of Crows duology, but beyond that, while I mean, these books are freaking beautiful, because if you get the hard copy, you can kind of see it. There's the black pages and the red pages, and I like the crow motif, although I had trouble when I first got the book discerning that it was a crow's wing that was like taking up the majority of the cover. I have seen illustrators on Instagram that will like redo or like enhance book covers, and I remember there was one that I saw that I was just like, wow, that is so much better, because they took a white outline to basically all the feathers that are in the crow, just a skinny one, nothing obnoxious, but that little bit of enhancement, my eye just was like, oh, that's a crow, those are feathers. It's not just this weird blob of black in the middle of the book. I also wish the crow was mirrored or flipped around so it does what Sorcery of Thorns does, and the eyeball is looking into the book instead of away from the book. That's just a minor thing though. And then there is King of Scars, which is a part of the Grisha universe. And this cover is one of those where like, I get it. It works for the character and the universe, and it's extremely graphic. It's like, wow, that is a gold book. Is it my favorite in a design level? No, it's kind of hideous to me, but hideous in a very like striking and unique way. Ooh, a book that is somewhere over here on my bookshelf that I got back in late 2018, specifically because of the cover, is Three Dark Crowns by Kendare Blake. And the book, at least the ones that I have like a matte cover to it, which just feels so good in between my fingers. I love that. And then I love the simplicity of just it being black and those three very distinctive, beautifully illustrative crowns. And it's so simple, but so striking. And there's a lot of detail to it. It borders on realism, but still has the unique qualities of something actually being illustrated or painted. It is so freaking beautiful. I love those covers so much. A book that I read in the late summer of last year, which I really enjoyed, was The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Hidari. Apologies if I pronounced that incorrectly, but I really enjoyed the book, and I really like the cover. This one's funny because I've seen different covers for this book. I don't know if it's because like international covers are different, but I swear I've seen like 3 or 4 different covers, but the one that I happen to snag from the library is the one that I like the most, at least from what I've seen off of Bookstagram. Just like this beautiful, vibrant orange, like salmon color, and all those cool golden stars, and then this girl looking through them, so you only see like her eye. And there is something about that again, maybe I'm just a sucker for having a person on the cover, but the fact that she's also so covered up and you only see pieces of her, there's something about that that's very suggestive and mysterious. Like you don't quite know who she is or what's going on, but she's clearly very confident because she's staring directly at the viewer. And I just find that to be very beautiful and very striking. The one critique that I have for it, and this is just particular to this cover because I don't think this is as much of an issue in other covers, but I think having The Wrath and the Dawn, the title of the book, in just that gold lettering, while beautiful, it also could be a little difficult to read because it's like a warm gold against that warm coral shade, and I didn't feel like there was quite enough contrast to make it pop, but that's such a minor critique for an otherwise really beautiful cover. So another book that I picked up, not solely because of the cover, but I was extremely attracted to the cover, but it also just blew up as a book and series, is Holly Black's The Cruel Prince. And if you've been with my channel for a while, then you know that I'm not the biggest fan of The Cruel Prince, but I do love the covers. I like the covers for the whole series, but I will stick specifically to The Cruel Prince because that's the one I'm most familiar with, because that's the one I own. Much like Three Dark Crowns, where it's a mostly black background, so then the objects get to really stand out, I feel very similarly towards The Cruel Prince with that white background. There was an edition released where instead of it being white, it was black, and I think that was a total mistake. It actually really washes out everything. But the white one, oh my gosh, that is just so, so, so pretty and clean and crisp. And what I really like about it are those like thin branches creeping up the book, and they're going in which direction? Up and to the right, where you would open the cover of the book. And again, it's like feels suggestive, and they almost look like fingers like crawling down the book, and then that hanging golden crown, which is mysterious and dark and a little dramatic, and that green, what is it, a June bug or something on the side of the branch, which is not super prominent by any means, but for some reason that was such a like, wow, just beautiful element. And it's so small and subtle. It just kind of made the whole color scheme pop. And I also really like the font of The Cruel Prince. It drips with drama, but it's still very legible. Okay, and I cannot finish out my young adult cover series without talking about all of Sarah J. Maas's books, because whoo, do I have some feelings. Let's start with Throne of Glass and how those are possibly the ugliest covers I have ever seen. They are so bad. This is, however, I think kind of comforting as somebody who wants to go into the traditionally published avenue, and there's always that bit of anxiety of knowing that you have such little control over how the covers are designed. There's hope that you can have a terrible cover and still do tremendously well. It is in fact the content that matters. I want to talk to the person who made this cover and be like, why is Elena blue? Why is her skin blue? This does not make sense. And these covers turned me off from picking up her book for so long. I remember seeing these books everywhere in the library, even like 3 years ago when I lived in Des Moines. I remember this so well. Walking by them, because there were so many copies of them. So it was like, okay, clearly the series is popular, but then pulling it out and it's just this like monstrous looking blue skinned, white haired elf demon looking lady, and it was just so gross. I was like, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't know what this is, but I don't like it. After reading the entire series and mostly really enjoying it, I still do not understand the decision to do that. Like, why is her skin blue? That doesn't make any sense. Why is her hair that like pale white? She just doesn't look anything like the main character. I don't think the fashion represents the fashion that I see within the book. I don't like anything about, okay, well that's not true. There are a few things that I guess are somewhat smart. So like Elena is always facing the consumer. And I think the Heir of Fire, the third book in the series, the green one, she has a bow that she has pulled back and is facing the audience. I think that's like pretty smart design. There is that sense of action. I know in the first one it's like she's walking towards and her hair is supposed to be flowing, but it's so stiff and plasticky. And to that effect, there is a different style, completely different style for the Court of Thorns and Roses trilogy, which I definitely like more, but it's still not my favorite. And I guess I should say this for all of Sarah J. Maas's books. The fact that they're willing to go so bold, especially with the color backgrounds, makes the books very appealing as a set. So when the books are all together, especially if you're ever on Bookstagram, and you'll see people and they'll make these covers despite the fact that the contents themselves are so ugly, but they are so striking within a bookshelf because the colors are so bright and there's a bit of a rainbow effect, especially with Throne of Glass. But the Court of Thorns and Roses, Farah, who is on the front cover, I find her to be extremely stiff. Also still a little bit obnoxious for my taste, just like the gown and always holding a knife, and it's the stiffness is what I think catches me off guard more than anything. But what makes me so excited, what I cannot wait for, Sarah J. Maas announced that they are coming out with new like collector's editions of Court of Thorns and Roses. I don't think they've been released for the entire trilogy, but for the first book, wow, is it beautiful. I think it's one of my favorite book covers of all time, which is maybe it also shows that Sarah J. Maas wasn't a huge fan of her covers either, but now that she's hit a certain amount of success, she's able to kind of do something a little way cooler. I also think that the covers lean a little bit more adult fantasy than YA fantasy. Yeah, these new covers with the illustrative, almost like old-fashioned tattoo-like wolf with the arrow coming through its heart. Oh my god, that is so beautiful, and I'm 1000% ordering it because it's gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I cannot wait for her to release what the other two images for the books will be. I'm very curious to see how those covers play out, if they're gonna have a similar color story more than anything, or are they each going to have like a different color theme going on. I also just find the colors that she's choosing to be a lot more graphic. I think the gray and red, or the yellow and red, they're pretty, they would look good on someone's bookshelves, and yeah, they're a lot more appealing to me anyway. So that's going to be it for this video. Obviously there are hundreds of more YA fantasy book covers that I could talk about, as well as adult fantasy book covers that I have opinions on and would love to talk about. So let me know down in the comments below if these kind of videos appeal to you, because I could honestly talk about book covers forever. I love them. I love them so much. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Leave your comments down below if you agree or disagree with my opinions about these particular covers and how you feel about them. And I will see you guys next time. Bye!